Thank you, Senator DeBoer. Debate is now open on AM 2628. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator DeBoer, you're welcome to close on AM 2628. Senator DeBoer waives closing. Colleagues, the question before us is the advancement of AM 2628. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay.
Right.
Have you all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
35 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the amendment.
AM 2628 is adopted. Returning to the bill. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator DeBoer, you're welcome to close on LB 741A. Senator DeBoer waives closing. Members, the question before us is the advancement to ENR initial of 741A. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
33 ayes, no nays, on the advancement of LB 741A.
741A advances. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, the next bill is LB 752A. It's a bill by Senator Arch that appropriates funds to implement the provisions of LB 752.
Senator Arch, you're welcome to open on LB 752A.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, colleagues. LB 752A is the appropriation bill for one of the Health and Human Services Committee's priority bills. As a reminder, LB 752 is the Health and Human Service Committee's Christmas tree related to licensure and public health, and we'll be discussing that in just a couple bills from now. LB 752A appropriates $79,552 from the general fund for fiscal year 22-23 and $99,326 from the general fund for fiscal year 23-24 to the Department of Health and Human Services to carry out the provisions of the Alzheimer's Disease and Other Dementia Support Act, including the creation of advisory council, which is one of the bills included in 752. The money appropriated to the department will pay for the FTE needed to support the council. With that, I ask for your green vote on LB 752A, also on the underlined LB 752 when we get to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Arch. Debate is now open on LB 752A. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Arch, you're welcome to close on LB 752A. Senator Arch waives closing. Members, the question before us is the advancement to ENR initial of LB 752A. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
35 ayes, no nays, on the advancement of the A bill.
LB 752A advances. Mr. Clerk, next item.
1024A by Senator Wayne. It's a bill for NEC to appropriate funds to implement the provisions of LB 1024.
Senator Wayne, you're welcome to open on LB 1024A.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this A bill, we're working on the amendment, so it'll completely change on select file along with 1024. I would ask for a green vote so they can stay together and we can have the conversation on select file regarding the amendment that we're proposing to adopt to change 1024. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Debate is now open on LB 1024A. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Wayne, you're welcome to close on LB 1024A. Senator Wayne waives closing. Members, the question before us is the advancement to ENR initial of LB 1024A. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Record, Mr. Clerk.
27 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the advancement of the A bill.
LB 1024A advances. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Mr. President, select file, Senator McKinney, enrollment and review amendments to LB 707.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 707.
Members, the question is the adoption of ENR amendments. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. ENR amendments are adopted.
Senator Flood would move to amend AM 2205.
Senator Flood, you're welcome to open on your amendment 2205.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. As a member of the Banking Committee, it's my pleasure to introduce this amendment. It is a friendly amendment. AM 2205 addresses a concern raised when the legislature adopted LB 649, the Nebraska Financial Innovation Act last session, which authorized the creation of digital asset depositories. LB 993, introduced by Senator Bostar, has been added to LB 707 pursuant to an amendment adopted on general file. LB 993 would provide limitations on digital asset and cryptocurrency custody services. During the Banking, Commerce, and Insurance Committee hearing on LB 993, concerns were raised regarding the existing requirement under Section 8-3009 for a digital asset depository to maintain unencumbered liquid assets valued at not less than 100% of the digital assets in its custody. After discussions with the banking industry, the consensus view is that it is inappropriate to require a digital asset depository to maintain 100% reserves for digital assets held in custody, since they are not quote-unquote liabilities under the digital asset depository. AM 2205 would reflect the industry standard that stablecoin issued by a digital asset depository have 100% in liquid asset reserves backing any outstanding stablecoin issued by the digital asset depository, also known as a DAD. The amendment is supported by the Nebraska Department of Banking and Finance, the Nebraska Bankers Association, representatives of the digital assets industry. As well, the department believes the amendment will enhance the regulation of stablecoin issued in our state. I would ask you to support AM 2205 and the underlying bill, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Senator Flood. Debate is now open on AM 2205. Senator Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want everyone to know that as chairman of the Banking Committee, I fully support this amendment, as does the committee, as we do the next amendment that's coming up from Senator Dorn. So I encourage your green vote on AM 2205. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Williams. Seeing no one else in the queue, members, the question before us is the adoption of AM 2205. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
26 ayes, 3 nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of the amendment.
AM 2205 is adopted. Next item.
Senator Dorn would move to amend AM 2405.
Senator Dorn, you're welcome to open on your AM 2405.
Thank you, Mr. President. Want to thank Senator Williams for allowing us to add this as an amendment. LB AM 2405 was my bill. LB 811, it's a straightforward bill. Under a 1953 law, auctioneers from another state who wanted to conduct a public auction in Nebraska had to be licensed under the same requirement as Nebraska auctioneers. The out-of-state auctioneer is supposed to apply for a license with the county clerk. The county clerk is then supposed to track down the requirements of the other state where the auctioneer comes from. The county clerk then creates an application and license and charges the same fee as the other state. County clerks haven't been doing this. Lancaster County hasn't issued an auctioneer license in 15 years and it's not being used. The law doesn't provide any guidance about what clerks do with the application, and there's no enforcement mechanism if an auctioneer from another state doesn't apply for a license. LB 811 does not change any requirement for auctioneer real property. real estate auctions would continue to be conducted in compliance with the Nebraska Real Estate Licensing Act. The Real Estate Commission did a simple chart for you, and that's a handout that we just gave out here, so that you can see what LB 811 changes. It simply eliminates an out-of-date, unused, unnecessary licensing registration. This was brought to us by the county, the county group, and the first thing that happened, or one of the things that's been happening in the last few years, is some of the clerks have been approached and asked about doing this. They don't know what the statute is. They don't know what to charge. This is a bill that was 53 years ago that basically is time to change and take it off the books. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dorn. Debate is now open on 2405. Senator Erdman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Dorn, you yielded a question or two?
Senator Dorn, will you yield?
Yes.
Senator Dorn, who brought this to your attention that this needed to be changed?
NACO did, the county group.
Say that again?
NACO, the county
Okay.
organization, brought this to my attention, yes.
All right, so let's just follow through and let me read line 4. And it says this. This is the underlined part. All auctioneers of any state shall comply. And then it goes on to say, with requirements of the Nebraska Real Estate License Act before conducting a sale of real estate in this state. So why did we need to do that? Because the old language said that nothing contained in this section, and it listed them, shall be construed to permit any person to conduct a sale of real estate without first complying with the requirements of the Nebraska Real Estate License Act. So what did we change here that makes a difference?
We really didn't change anything except eliminating the old statute. That's all we changed. And that's why the county clerks were having an issue, especially like call it along the borders or whatever, when somebody would, the out-of-state auctioneers were found out that we had this statute in place. So they would go to the clerk's office, which is where they were supposed to go to find out about this. Generally speaking, the clerks didn't know what was going on. They would get a hold of NACO or somebody else. And that's why we contacted also the Nebraska Real Estate Commission. And that's the handout that we handed out there with Greg Lemon. And he basically is saying that there is no change to this. It's just eliminating a statute so that when people don't have to come and ask the clerk what they're supposed to do and then nobody knows.
So you're trying to tell me that old language, if I read that old language, I wouldn't know that I have to have a real estate license?
I guess you have to ask that question again. I didn't
Okay.
catch that
All
part.
right, here's what it used to say.
Yep.
Nothing contained in this section, and it lists them, shall be construed to permit any person to conduct a sale of real estate without first complying with the requirements of the Nebraska Real Estate License Act. Okay, that would say to me, if I read that, hey, I can't sell real estate in Nebraska unless I have a license. And so you're changing it to say, all auctioneers of any state shall comply with the requirements of the Nebraska Real Estate License Act before conducting a sale of real estate in this state. It says the same thing.
Well, it may somewhat say the same thing, but the interpretation was that those auctioneers from out of state, they now had to make sure they qualified with the Nebraska one. So then they would go ask the clerks, and the clerk said they didn't know what was going on or whatever, because it's an out of date. What it does is it changes the wordage so that now they can conduct that auction here in Nebraska. Well, they could before. I agree with your thought process on that. But what this does is it clarifies the part that they now don't have to come and ask a clerk, because that's the part we had a statute in Nebraska.
Well, you're not, let me understand this. So you're changing it. If they couldn't find this statute before, what's changing the language going to make them available to find it now?
Well, basically that bottom part just clarifies that they have to conduct a sale in Nebraska, they have to meet our licensing procedures.
No, the old part said that too. The old part said, nothing contained in this section shall be construed to permit any person to conduct a sale of real estate without first complying with the requirements of our real estate. It said the same thing. It said
1
exactly
minute.
the same thing.
This is a clarification. That was the way I was presented with it, that this is now going to eliminate that 53-year-old provision that the clerks were having an issue with because people came forward.
I sell real estate, and I've never gone to the clerk of the county to ask him a real estate question. I look it up on the real estate website.
You don't, but out-of-state auctioneers were. That's where the issue was. It was the out-of-state auctioneers not having that clarification that they did not need to do it.
I'm a no.
Thank you, Senator Erdman and Senator Dorn. Seeing no one else in the queue, Senator Dorn, you're welcome to close on AM 2405. Senator Dorn waives closing. Members, the question before us is the adoption of AM 2405. All those in favor, vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
30 yeas, 1 nay, Mr. President, on the adoption of the amendment.
AM 2405 is adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Mr. President.
Senator Williams, you're welcome to close. Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 707 to ENR for engrossing.
Colleagues, the question before us is the advancement of LB 707. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. LB 707 advances. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Senator McKinney, 863, I have enrollment and review amendments.
Senator
863.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 863.
Colleagues, the question is the adoption of ENR amendments to 863. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. ENR amendments are adopted.
I have nothing further on that bill, Senator.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
President, I move to advance LB 863 to ENR for engrossing.
Members, the question is the advancement of LB 863 to ENR. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. LB 863 advances. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Mr. President, 752 has enrollment and review amendments, first of all, Senator.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 752.
Colleagues, the question is the adoption of ENR amendments to LB 752. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. ENR amendments are adopted. Mr.
Senator
Clerk.
Arch would move to amend with AM 2302.
Senator Arch, you're welcome to open on AM 2302.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, AM 2302 to the ENR amendment is a technical amendment that clarifies language and harmonizes provisions with the most recent edition of the Licensed Professional Counselors Interstate Compact, which has already been enacted in 2 other states. The addition of the language in Section 7 will ideally make it easier for the Federal Bureau of Investigation to complete the required criminal background checks and fingerprinting under the compacts that Nebraska is a party to. In Nebraska, we have licensed mental health practitioners, LMHPs, and licensed independent mental health practitioners, LIMHPs, within the overarching licensing umbrella. Within that license, you can also specialize in such areas as social work, marriage and family therapy, or professional counseling and receive a certification. The additional language in Section 16 clarifies that only licensed independent mental health practitioners, or LIMHPs, with certifications in professional counseling may be eligible for the Licensed Professional Counselors Interstate Compact here in Nebraska. After speaking with the Council for State Governments and the Department of Health and Human Services, we all felt this language accurately reflected the intent of the compact. By the way, every state does this differently. They all have different names and certifications, qualifications. So we're trying to find the one that matches with the state of Nebraska for the compact. Other LIMHPs may not have had the required training under the compact, while LMHPs would not be able to independently diagnose certain serious behavioral health conditions, which is a requirement under the compact. I'd like to thank Senator Blood, the Council for State Governments, the Department of Health and Human Services for working with us on this amendment, continuing to help find ways to bring healthcare professionals to Nebraska. With that, I urge your green vote on AM 2302 and on the underlying ENR amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Arch. Debate is now open on the amendment. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Arch, you're recognized to close. Senator Arch waives closing. Members, the question is the adoption of AM 2302 to LB 752. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay.
Okay, thanks.
Have all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
35 ayes, no nays on the adoption of the amendment.
AM 2302 is adopted. Mr. Clerk.
Nothing further, Mr. President.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 752 to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. LB 752 is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
Senator, with respect to 805, I have ENR amendments.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 805.
Members, you've heard the motion to adopt the ENR amendments. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The amendments are adopted. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Brandt has AM 2581. I have a note you want to withdraw. I have nothing further in the bill, Mr. President.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 805 to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 805. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. LB 805 is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, 805A, I have ENRs, first of all, Senator.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 805A.
Members, you've heard the motion to adopt the ENR amendments. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ENR amendments are adopted.
Senator
Mr. Clerk.
Hughes would move to amend AM 2592.
Senator Hughes, you're recognized to open on AM 2592.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is a very short amendment. We caught a drafting error that came down from bill drafters, and I want to thank Keisha and the fiscal office for catching this. This just makes clear that the first year we're asking for ARPA funds, and after that, it will have to come out of general funds if the appropriation committee so desires. I would appreciate a green vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hughes. Debate is now open on AM 2592. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Hughes, you're recognized to close. Senator Hughes waives closing. Members, the question is the adoption of AM 2592 to LB 805. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
31 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Hughes' amendment.
The amendment is adopted.
I have nothing further in the bill, Mr. President.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 805A to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 805A. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The bill is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, Legislative Bill 800. Senator McKinney, I have enrollment and review amendments, first of all.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 809.
Members, you've heard the motion to adopt the ENR amendments. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The amendments are adopted.
Senator Gregor would move to amend with AM 2591. But I have a note you want to withdraw.
It's withdrawn.
I have nothing further on that bill.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 809 to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 809. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The bill is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
Senator McKinney, 809A. No ENRs. Senator Gregor, I understand you want to withdraw AM 2442.
Withdrawn.
I have nothing further pending to 2442.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
809A.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 809A to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 809A. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The bill is advanced. Mr. Clerk, LB 800.
Senator McKinney, I have enrollment and review amendments, first of all.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 800.
Members, you've heard the motion to adopt the ENR amendments. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ENR amendments are adopted. Mr. Clerk. Senator Hilgers, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, colleagues. As I mentioned earlier this morning, today's evening agenda, I wanted to present to the body really just like file bills that were clean, that didn't have any real substantive amendments, i.e. Other bills that had come out of committee, anything that was substantive or new material. Because of that, I've given members who have filed amendments the opportunity to withdraw them and stay on tonight's agenda, at least in two instances, one of which is LB 800, another is LB 888, that the senators wish to continue to have debate on the amendment. So those two bills tonight we will skip over. So we'll skip over LB 800, LB 888. Doesn't mean that we won't ever come back to them. It's just for tonight because I conveyed to the body that I wanted these select file bills to be clean and not controversial and not add new material. We'll skip over them and we'll find some other time on another day for the agenda. So we'll skip over those two bills. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Speaker Hilgers. Mr. Clerk, back to the agenda, LB 750.
750, Senator McKinney, I have enrollment and review amendments pending.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 750.
Members, you've heard the motion to adopt the ENR amendments. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ENR amendments are adopted. Mr. Clerk.
I have nothing further on that bill, Senator.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 750 to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 750. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. LB 750 is advanced. Mr. Clerk?
1273, Senator. I have ENRs first of all.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 1273.
Members, you've heard the motion to adopt the ENR amendments. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The amendments are adopted.
Mr.
Senator?
President, Senator Matt Hanson, I have floor amendment 186 with a note you wish to withdraw.
Withdrawn.
I have nothing further on that bill, Mr. President.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 1273 to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 1273. All in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. LB 1273 is advanced. LB 1273A, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, Senator McKinney, I have no amendments to 1273A.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 1273A to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 1273A. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. LB 1273A is advanced. Mr. Clerk, LB 1112.
Senator 1112, I have enrollment and review amendments.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the ENR amendments to LB 1112.
Members, you've heard the motion to adopt the ENR amendments. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay.
Overdue.
The ENR amendments are adopted.
I didn't know that.
Mr. Clerk.
I have nothing further on 1112, Senator.
Senator Erdman, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I had not heard from too many of the folks out west, but I did get some correspondence from superintendent and in my district, and he sent me an email and he said that they have no 9th through 12th grade math teacher, and it's been open since January. And as of today, he's had no one to fill that application. And he said requiring the district to have a semester of computer science is a great idea, but his question is, who teaches it? So he asked this question: how meaningful is it when you don't have a qualified staff to teach it? Who is going to teach us computer science at their school to meet the requirements? This may be a requirement that's easily fulfilled in the larger schools in the eastern part of the state. But when you get into my district, they don't have qualified teachers to even teach math or science. And it's a little difficult for them to meet the requirements on computer science if they don't have a qualified teacher. So I was wondering if Senator McKinney would yield to a question.
Senator McKinney, would you yield?
Yes.
Senator McKinney, what and how should I answer this superintendent about what he should do to try to accomplish the requirement of 1112?
I'm not sure if they read the bill after we amended it, but the bill would allow for blended learning, and the school districts also could use online education to assist with that concern.
So you said they could do it online?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. He didn't say anything about that. I'd have to get a hold of him and see. But we don't have the same kind of instructors in rural Nebraska that you have in eastern Nebraska. So did you say the amendment allows that to happen?
Yes, it allows for online education and blended learning.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Senator Erdman and Senator McKinney. Senator Clement, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also had communication from a school, and it was an eastern Nebraska school near me, and from a principal who was concerned about having to be an endorsed teacher to teach computer science. They don't have anybody that is able to do that. And I was glad to hear that online learning could be a substitute for that. I just am hoping that the Department of Education will allow the flexibility there for schools that are having trouble finding a certified teacher to do computer science. He also mentioned that if you require a in-school 5-hour class, things like music, band, welding, ag education, business, STEM, and engineering, which are electives, might be selected, might not be selected if they have to have a mandatory computer science class. So I just wanted to raise those concerns that I had received, and I am just hoping that the online course will qualify so that a school does not have to get a certified teacher for this subject. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Clements. Senator Bostelman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have similar comments from my ASU, and here's a couple of comments there. So at this point in time, I'd be opposed to LB 1112. 12 of the 16 districts reporting indicate that LB 1112 carries unfunded mandates that will directly result in additional costs of staffing and materials required in order to meet the requirements. 10 of the 16 districts indicate that there are foreseeable scheduling challenges for students and staff in adopting an additional single course requirement for high school. 11 of the 16 districts are concerned that the addition of another single course requirement at the high school means that they are denying students of other course opportunities they may choose to take, which include courses like ag, welding, et cetera, that are also H3 work areas in our state. And 14 of the 16 districts assert that they already require a computer science or technical course in the 7th or 8th grade for all students. Many of them say, some of the superintendents, principals I heard from say they already give one-on-one with computers and that. So I think there's a concern within the ESUs and schools that this is not needed. They're already doing things along this line. So thank you, Mr. President. You'll rest my time back to the chair.
Thank you, Senator Bostelman. Senator Albright, you are recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. I had supported this on the general file, and I told Senator McKinney that I thought it was really a great idea. And in the meantime, I have heard from 2 of my schools, and again, the same concern is that they're probably going to have to hire someone at $60,000 to $75,000 with benefits and such. So it might not work for me. And of course, these unfunded mandates, and when you control, we might have to switch gears here just a little bit before I could get on board. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Albright. Senator Branch, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator McKinney be available to answer a question?
Senator McKinney, would you yield?
Yes.
Thank you, Senator McKinney. And we've talked about this exact thing with some of our small schools out there. And I'm not going to pile on. I mean, they have the same concerns that have been voiced tonight. But one of the ideas that the schools brought forth, because we meet with the superintendents, and I said, you guys have to come up with some solutions. And one of them, in a lot of our schools, in our junior highs, they receive this training. And in a lot of our schools, for example, if an 8th grader takes Algebra 1, that counts toward high school credit. So does this bill enable the same situation with these computer classes?
I can't say with 100% certainty because I still don't understand how that works in practice, where a kid takes a class in middle school and it counts as a high school credit. I just don't know how that works in practice.
When does this bill go into effect?
2026.
Okay, so it would be possible next year to come up with some fixes to the bill that could address a lot of these concerns for the small schools.
Yes, for sure.
And you'd be all right with that?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Senator McKinney.
No problem.
Thank you, Senator Brandt and Senator McKinney. Senator Mosier, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator McKinney, could you respond to a question or two?
Senator McKinney, would you yield?
Sure.
We had a little discussion about this earlier. Some of the schools that emailed or called me were concerned about adding another requirement for graduation, and that there are some kids who struggle to graduate, and requiring everybody to take computer coding might be another hurdle to them graduating. So is there any thought in your mind of making this available to students, but not necessarily a requirement for graduation?
We thought about that, and in consideration of that, we extended it out to the 2026 incoming freshman class. So when they work on their education plans in middle school, they'll be preparing high school with that in mind.
Yeah, I don't know if the high schools in your district have higher graduation rates or lower than the average, but it's just something I didn't think about when I voted for it earlier. And the argument, you get a lot of calls from people who complain about something that's going to make them do extra work. And sometimes you just kind of let those calls kind of, like water on a duck's back, you just kind of let it go. But I thought this was a pretty valid argument, so that's kind of what changed my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mosier and Senator McKinney. Senator Linehan, you are recognized.
Mr. President, I rise in strong support of Senator McKinney's LB 1112. I was at the hearing. This was brought by the business community. We must have had, it's one of the few hearings I've been at this year, and I also chair the Revenue Committee, where we had as many business owners, CEOs. Here's the deal. Today, we passed the bill, or we at least got Senate on, the ARPA bill, Senate on to final reading, with $75 million in it for workforce development, at least that much. And we have a bunch of business people, business owners, CEOs come in and say, we have kids graduating from high school, we can't give them jobs because they don't know how to do anything on a computer. Well, I don't know. Everybody that works for us here has to know how to turn on a computer, how to use the program. Senator McKinney works with the schools. They can do it online. They don't have to have an instructor. This was at the request of the business community. And if we think workforce is what we're all about today, and I agree, we're all about it, this is what they need. They want kids who graduate from high school. We can graduate kids from high school. They don't have to know how to, well, let's don't even go there. Let's just stick with the idea that it's pretty hard if you go into any place today and you want a job, you don't know how to run a computer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Linehan. Senator Erdman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I happened to look up the fiscal note here, and it looks like they're going to create another position over at the Department of Education. Senator McKinney, will you yield to a question?
Senator McKinney, would you yield?
Sure.
So, Senator McKinney, you see that on the fiscal note, it says it's appropriated $134,247 from general fund to the Department of Education. So they're going to hire another person to teach this online. This online class will be taught by that person. Is that correct?
No, it won't be taught by them. They just would oversee the implementation in the program.
So they're going to have a cost of $134,000 to oversee this program?
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I don't know if I agree, but that's what they put in for it.
I think I'd do it for $50,000. I mean, think about that. So we got 512 people that work at the Department of Education, and they surely can't find somebody that could oversee this program?
Possibly, but they put it in.
This is absurd. I just shake my head when I see these things. And so I would assume that they asked the department for an opinion, and I would assume that's exactly what the department said. And why wouldn't they if they can just choose to get how much money they want? Thank you for answering the questions.
Thank you, Senator Erdman and Senator McKinney. Senator Brandt, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Linehan yield to some questions?
Senator Linehan, would you yield?
Most certainly.
Thank you, Senator Linehan. You're in a unique position. You serve on both the Education Committee and you're Chairman of Revenue. This morning, we had a 2-hour discussion on unfunded mandates. You just gave some testimony that the business community is all for this. Is the business community willing to throw some dollars in this for these rural schools, particularly those 160 school districts that don't receive any state aid?
Senator McKinney would be better to answer this because I am going on, how many hours we've been here. But my recollection is that the online programs, they would and do fund and would make available to any schools that would use them without charge. That is, I think that's right. Senator McKinney is shaking his head yes.
All right. Thank you, Senator Linehan. Senator McKinney, would you yield to a question?
Senator McKinney, would you yield?
Yes.
Senator Linehan just told us that this would be at no cost to the school districts if they use online learning. Is that correct?
Yes, the curriculum is free to the districts and the business community has offered to provide that free of charge.
All right. Thank you. That's what I needed to hear.
Thank you, Senator Brandt, McKinney, and Linehan. Seeing no one in the queue, Mr. Clerk.
I have nothing further on the bill, Mr. President.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 1112 to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 1112. All those in favor say aye. There's been a request for a machine vote. Members, you've heard the discussion. All those in favor of advancing LB 1112, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
26 ayes, 5 nays on the advancement of the bill.
LB 1112 advances. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
1112A, Senator, I have no amendments to the bill.
Senator McKinney for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to advance LB 1112A to ENR for engrossing.
Members, you've heard the motion to advance LB 1112A. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The bill is advanced. Mr. Clerk, returning to general file, LB 1144.
1144 is a bill by Senator Friesen. It's a bill for enacting telecommunications. Changes discontinuance of service provisions under the Nebraska Telecommunications Regulation Act. It defines terms. It changed provision of the Nebraska Broadband Bridge Act related to grant matching fund requirements. Introduced on January 19 of this year, referred to the Transportation Committee, advanced to general file. There are committee amendments pending, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Friesen, you are recognized to open on LB 1144.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the legislature. LB 1144 is the second Transportation Telecommunications Committee priority bill, and it focuses on our ongoing effort to expand and improve broadband availability across the state. As I will point out during the explanation of the standing committee amendment, LB 1144 incorporates a number of ideas from other bills that the committee considered this session. You will recall that last session, the legislature enacted LB 388, which introduced on behalf of the governor, and it created the Broadband Bridge Act. The Bridge Act used $20 million in state general funds administered through the Public Service Commission to provide grants to fund broadband improvement in unserved and underserved areas of Nebraska. The Bridge Act also provided that any federal funds directed to the state for broadband improvement would be administered through this program. The Public Service Commission released the first-year bridge grant acts in January, and following the release of their order, there were questions raised about the process developed and its administration. My view has been that the majority of the changes and improvements made to the Bridge Act process should be, for the most part, left to the Commission to address and refine. And address the statutory change at this point should be focused on those changes the Commission cannot make administratively. The Commission, in preparation for the Year 2 grant cycle, has opened a docket to review the process, solicited public comments, and conducted a public hearing for the proposed changes on March 22. We should allow that process to work. I believe the better process at this point in time is to give the Commission the opportunity to review their implementation of the program and give them a chance to make revisions based upon their comments and ideas they have received. The committee will introduce some interim LR that will provide oversight to the Commission's administration revisions, the Year 2 grant process results, and the need next year for any additional legislative response to the administration of this program, as well as any federal support programs. Mr. President, at this time, I'd like to move to an explanation of the Standing Committee amendment as it becomes the bill.
Thank you, Senator Friesen. As the clerk stated, there are amendments from the T&T committee. Senator Friesen, as chair of the committee, you are recognized to open on the committee amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. AM 2107 does become the bill. The amendment incorporates elements of other bills that were considered by the Transportation Telecommunications Committee this session. Section 1 is a revised version of LB 914 introduced by Senator Bosselman. The amendment provides that the Commission may create and maintain an official Nebraska broadband map, funding for which shall come from the federal broadband funding, which can be used for mapping purposes. The Commission is to review and determine the need to maintain a state map. Section 2 is a revised version of Section 1 of original LB 1144. The amendment revises current law regarding the discontinuance or abandonment of voice telephone service. This section is updated to clarify process for a carrier that wishes to retire copper facilities and upgrade to fiber. The law is amended to provide that a hearing is only required if the Commission determines it is necessary. The section is amended to apply to communications companies and telecommunications providers. Section 3, this section is a revised version of LB 1234. The section creates an expedited process for the telecommunications companies to obtain railroad crossing permits. The current rail crossing permit process is amended to provide that if a telecommunications company files a completed rail crossing agreement with the railroad, and if the railroad fails to respond to the application within 30 days of receipt of the completed application, the telecommunications company may petition the Commission for the issuance of expedited crossing permit. The Commission required to issue the permit within 15 days of receipt. The expedited permit must require placement of the facilities within the railroad right-of-way within a public road crossing. For purpose of this section, the word response should be given its plain and ordinary meaning. Section 5 amends the Broadband Bridge Act and provides that the current match rate to receive a Bridge Act of 50% of the project cost is reduced to a 25% match for projects located in high cost of service locations. The Commission is authorized to provide longer extensions than the current 1 6-month extension upon a showing of good cause for completion of projects. Section 7, the section adds new language to the Bridge Act challenge process. The Commission may require that a provider challenging a grant application provide speed test data in portions of the application being challenged. Senator Flood will have an amendment which will require the Commission to obtain speed test data when application is challenged. Section 8, this section incorporates language from LB 1214 and provides that any entity receiving a grant shall, as a condition of the grant, agree to provide broadband service in the project area for a period of 15 years following the receipt of funding. Currently, a grant recipient must agree to provide service until released from the obligation by the Commission. Additionally, the Commission shall not add to the obligation of a grant recipient unless specifically authorized by the Bridge Act or by federal law. Section 9 enacts a new provision of law under the Bridge Act It provides any provider receiving support from the Nebraska Universal Service Act, the Bridge Act, or any federal funds administered by the Commission for the provision of broadband service shall be subject to service quality, customer service, and billing regulations established by the Commission as a condition of support. Service quality regulations shall only apply to those locations for a provider that receives Commission support. The Commission shall not add to the obligations of a provider after support has been awarded. This, I believe, is a very significant provision, probably the most important provision of LB 1144. We are starting the process of investing tens of hundreds of millions of dollars into broadband. It is important to make sure that we have accountability built into the process. That's 5, 10, 15 years after the grant is made that a funding decision made to build 100 by 100 broadband. Using this process, the project is still capable of providing that service and that the provider has maintained the investment they have promised the state. There have been some not comfortable with this section, and Speaker Hilgers has developed an alternative that he will offer, and if adopted, I can also support it. Section 10 adds a new provision to the Bridge Act that states nothing in the act authorizes the Commission to regulate internet service, and also provides that the Commission shall not deny a Bridge Act application based on pricing or terms and condition of service, although the weighted scoring system may take into account an applicant's terms and condition of service. Section 11 to 16 amends into the bill Senator Dorn's Precision Agriculture Infrastructure Act. The act will be administered by the Public Service Commission and creates a grant fund with purpose to provide precision agriculture connectivity to accelerate rural economic development and provide high-speed connectivity to farm sites in unserved areas of the state. Funding for the act shall come from the Federal Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, and grants from the program shall not exceed $2 million per year. Finally, the committee amendment adds the emergency clause to those provisions of the bill that address the Broadband Bridge Act. And Mr. President, that concludes my introduction of the committee amendment, and I would be happy to address any questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Friesen. Mr. Clerk, there's an amendment to the committee amendment.
Yeah, first of all, Mr. President, Senator Flood had an amendment to the committee amendments, 2316, but I have a note he wishes to withdraw.
Withdrawn.
With that action, Senator Hilgers would move to amend AM 2428.
Speaker Hilgers, you are recognized to open on AM 2428.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, colleagues. AM 2428 is a friendly amendment. So when the committee did its work, and they included Section 9, and Section 9 really ported over some of the quality of service requirements from the voice context into the broadband context. And I understand what Senator Friesen was trying to accomplish. Part of the issue was that it was the requirements of the voice context were fairly broad, and that it put into the broadband context, we were concerned that certain companies wouldn't apply. They would be deterred from applying because of the additional regulation. And so what AM 2428 does is it strips out Section 9 and then comes back and says, look, what we're really trying to do, which is what I think Senator Friesen is trying to get at, is to say anyone who takes these dollars has to commit to a certain up and down speed over a certain time frame. And so what this new section in this amendment would be essentially to accommodate the concerns identified by the committee and Senator Friesen, but doing it in a slightly more narrow way to make sure that we're not deterring that investment. So again, this is a friendly amendment, and I would encourage your green light on AM 2428.
Thank you, Speaker Hilgers. Debate is now open on AM 2428. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Hilgers, you are recognized to close. Senator Hilgers waives closing on AM 2428. Members, the question is the adoption of AM 2428. All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
34 ayes, no nays on adoption of Senator Hilgers' amendment.
AM 2428 is adopted. Mr. Clerk, you have another amendment to the committee amendment?
Senator Flood, AM 2408, excuse me.
Senator Flood, you are recognized to open on AM 2408.
Mr. President, with your permission, I'd like to withdraw and refile this amendment on select file.
Amendment is withdrawn.
Don't put anything in. Don't put it in, we'll just print it. I have nothing further, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Debate is now open on AM 2109. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Friesen, you are recognized to close on the committee amendment AM 2107. Senator Friesen waives closing. Members, the question is the adoption of AM 2107 to LB 1144. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
37 ayes, no nays on adoption of committee amendments.
The amendment is adopted. Returning to debate on LB 1144. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Friesen, you are recognized to close. Senator Friesen waives closing. Members, the question is the advancement of LB 1144 to ENR initial. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have all voted? Record, Mr. Clerk.
37 ayes, no nays to advance the bill, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. LB 1144 advances. Mr. Clerk, for items.
Mr. President, one study resolution 393 by Senator John Kavanaugh. That will be referred to the board. Amendments to be printed, Senator Linehan 1014, Senator Wayne to LB 888, Senator Blood to 800, and Senator Flood to LB 1144. Name ads, Mr. President. Senator Matt Hansen to LB 852, and Senator Matt Hansen would move to adjourn the body until Tuesday, March 29 at 9 o'clock.
Members, you've heard the motion to adjourn till 9 a.m. tomorrow. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. We are adjourned.